Hi, it's Kristin from Salto. We are very happy to be pairing with the Co-working Assembly for this podcast episode. Salto opens the doors to thousands of co-working, co-living, and workplaces in the world. We believe community is the key, and by taking part in this podcast, you'll be able to connect more with like-minded people around the world and to help build the co-working and co-living community globally. Take a look at the link in the show notes to find out more, and we hope to meet you in person soon. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another really exciting episode of the Co-working Values Podcast, the Europe's greatest co-working podcast, maybe the only podcast. But in the studio today, I'm over the moon. We have Monica and Fiona. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So, Monica, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
Those are two different things. I'm part of Nexodus team. Probably a lot of you are already familiar with Nexodus. We are helping co-working spaces streamline their operations with the white-labeled platform. I am in Nexodus for the last 4 years, so I think it has been a while. And during that time, I really got into the industry. I mean, of course, we had the pandemic on the way, so we did have those emotional calls with Bernie and the rest of the folks from London and the co-working industry. So I'm really glad to be here and basically share a bit of my knowledge for everyone who is looking at opening their new space.
Gee, Monica, we've only got 20 minutes, so we won't be able to share all your knowledge. Fiona, what are you known for? What are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
Oh, hey. So I'm Fiona. I am a consultant, and I work with co-working spaces and SMEs, predominantly around business process, technology, and how you can make your life easier by using both of those things. To achieve consistency and generally make your member experience amazing and your admin team experience better. What do I want to be known for? That's a good question. I'm not sure I know the answer to that, apart from, I guess, being good at helping people get started and helping them improve.
You are definitely good at that. You've saved my life several times in the last couple of years. So we were all at the Urban MBA London Fashion Week fashion show at the Ministry's co-working space in town. And then there's a lot of work about, for those of you, if you go back to other episodes, there's Kofi talking about Urban MBA, which is a youth charity that does a 12-week course helping people start their own business, start their project, whatever it is. So we do a lot with that. And Urban MBA is it has a building at the moment, but it's looking for another building which is going to be kitted out right from the start. And Fiona is a trustee for Urban MBA now. I made her join, and that's what she's going to help us. So there's a lot of people come to me and say, "Oh, how do I open a co-working space? What do I need to know?" And I don't know any of that, so stop asking me, because I know I give the idea that I might know, but I have no clue. But that's why we've got this podcast, is so I can send people like you that thing, rather than me pretending. Is Monica and Fiona are going to tell us like how to get started. So imagine you've got the building already. How do you? I suppose really this podcast should be like how not to fuck up opening your co-working space. Like where do you start, folks?
You should call it this way. Yes.
Yeah. What's the first thing not to do or to do?
Well, actually, the first thing to do, you do before you get your building, which is making sure that you have understood, and if you're new to setting up a co-working space, or in Kofi's situation, the education space, it's talking to other people, going and seeing other spaces, because you need to know, have you thought about, what kind of kitchen facility do you need? Do we need a basic tea point? Do we need an actual kitchen? How many loos do you need for the kind of capacity you're going to have? All that kind of thing, because that will obviously dictate how big a space you're going to need. So there's a whole sort of host of questions and brainstorming that needs to go on first for you to understand what kind of space I'm looking for. Do I want my own front door? Am I happy to be in another building? There's a whole lot of stuff around there. So I think that's actually number one, is trying to understand what your space is, who am I pitching my space to? Am I going for a really great neighborhood space where I'm looking to attract local? Am I wanting something that's more open? And am I looking at a niche? If I'm looking at a niche, do I need special facilities? Do I need podcast studios? Do I need a maker space? So I think all of those questions to start with actually start to dictate what kind of space you're looking for. To make sure that it has the right space and the right facilities that's going to enable you to get to what you need to get to.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think that's the first thing you need to think about: who is your target customer, essentially, who you want to attract to your space. And based on that, you look at the building, as Fiona mentioned, but you will also look at the technology connected to it. I have seen a lot of new owners of the co-working spaces without experience that come to us, and they do not know what they want to do. And that's the first thing you need to focus on: what you want to do, what your process will be, how you want to manage it, how you want it to look like when you open your doors. Because then you come without a clue, and you often invest into technology that is not best for you because it doesn't match the processes that you have, and then you end up with the either building or the technologies in your space that basically do not fit your business. And that's the thing, that your technology should fit your business, not the other way around.
Absolutely. I think that's it. It's like, what drove you to want to open a co-working space? What is it that you really love your local community and you're trying to provide a service to that? Is it very commercial? So all those things will also inform that kind of thing. So I think that's it to understand first. And then how big a building you want. And then we can get into the detail of actually finding a building and knowing what we need for that. And then it's going to be getting into the detail of then what we're offering and how we're going to do it. And there's all sorts of things that you have to do in stages. So I think with co-working, in terms of the technology, I think the co-working management solution tends to be the central pin. And then everything else you want to basically be able to coordinate in with that. So once you've had, again, the whole thing about, what are your requirements? What, are you offering member events? Do you want to build a community as part of not just a physical community, but do you want people to be able to message each other? Do you want to have discussion groups, all that kind of thing, which obviously all affects what solution you go for. Are you wanting to do automated billing? All these things. There's some very boring questions you have to ask yourself, as well as the nice fun ones. Yes, but they are crucial. But I think that's it. And I think, the next step almost is understanding what you need from co-working management and how you're going to run your space. And then that will then dictate to a certain extent. But let's take a great example, which is...
Monica, are there things that people come to you with and that they're like, oh, I want to have a big community and I want to have this and I want to have that? And what are the things that people completely forget that are really important to going with the space or setting up the tech?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think they often do not check what is the technology that the landlord provides them. So they basically come to us already with some contractors that they and with some technology that they purchased before checking at all whether that technology can be connected and can be integrated with any other software. I mean, we are not talking about Nexodus only, but in any really solution that you want to use. So I would say that before you make any decision on any investment in terms of technology like door access control system, Wi-Fi infrastructure, etc., take a look at the market, at the co-working software solutions as an example, to see with which solutions they integrate. Because otherwise you may end up with the solution that was very costly, it's impossible or very costly to change, and it doesn't integrate with anything available on the market. And then you may end up with the experience for your members that you didn't want to. So that comes with exactly what Fiona said, that you need to basically sit down and kind of do a bit like a map of what you want to offer and which technology will provide that, and map up before doing any decisions. Um, the challenge is when sometimes, so if you are actually building your own building, or you have freedom of choosing the solutions, that's great, because then you can choose the technology that will straight away connect to your software. And by that, I mean, it's already built integration, and the software provider is responsible for maintaining this integration. So that's the best scenario, because if you end up with something that maybe your landlord provides and you cannot change it, you may need to work on the integration by yourself using API. I mean, you may have Fiona's help as an example to integrate different solutions, which is a great idea if you don't have this out of the box. So I think that's the most important, because those things are costly. And most of the time you decide on them once, and it will take you years to change them to something else and gain all the capital to actually invest into changing the locks, as an example.
And how long does it take to do that mapping? Is it like an hour thing or a whole day long thing, or how much time should I allocate to that? Because I know that's a really wise thing to do, but I never know how to actually do it.
I think it's as long as it takes, really. It may take a week, it may take months, depending how complex and how many services you want to serve, what kind of technology you want to implement in your space, because you can go only with must-haves. So there are certain things that you need to do regardless what kind of business you're running. I mean, you need to have a place to input your customer database. You need to have a secure building. You need to make it possible for people to pay you. I mean, those are three most important things. And everything else that you want to offer basically will take more and more time. So this is what we are discussing when onboarding customers, that, okay, if you just go with Nexus solution, it may take this and this much time, but then you are building some custom integrations and you need to put some more time on this, on the planning and implementation. I think Fiona may have a good insight on that.
But I think as well, it depends. If you have a really strong idea of what your space is going to be about, that kind of process is quicker, because you know that I know I want to be offering these kind of events. I know I want people to go through this experience of this is how they come in, this is how they're dealt with, or this. Whereas if you're more vague about what you're actually offering, you've kind of got to work that bit out first, and then it will inform. And a lot of it as well is going to be down to what expertise you have. So I have amongst other things, I do have a background in construction. I used to be a fit-out project manager. So I understand how buildings work, and I understand what you need to think about when you're doing a fit out of a space and you're thinking about all these different little things. So I can very quickly go through my hit list of, well, what do I think about this and this? If you've never done that before, unless you've got someone on board who does know about that, you're kind of clutching at straws. And again, there might be things you miss because you just don't have that experience yourself. And not many people do have it across the board. So I think knowing where to go and get some help, and who to talk to. I mean, this is why we have London Co-working Assembly. It's great for people who are starting up, because there's lots of people in there who are ready to help you and give some advice. But I think the more of that you have, the more of your own experience, your own clear plans, and the more you can talk to the right people, that will obviously speed you up and help you make better decisions. But it takes what it takes, I'm afraid.
I absolutely agree as well with you, Fiona, about an expert. So I personally love working with Fiona, because the idea is that not every co-working space owner is an expert in everything, especially the technology. So if you're not a tech geek, I mean, you find yourself a consultant that will understand your needs and that will put this project for you together. I know that there's some upfront cost for it, but this investment is has the best ROI really that you can have. It's the being sure that when you open the co-working space from the day one, you have someone there who understands all of the technology aspects and not only also the business aspects of your space. So you can basically sleep at night, right? Rather than dealing with everything that may be a bit abstract for you at the first place. So while I think that, consultants are really invaluable resource for you. All sorts of consultants like Fiona, the technology business consultants, marketing consultants. You shouldn't be afraid to ask for help and pay for it. People who can do it great for you, because you are building an important business that is, probably will define your life, and you want to serve great community. So hiring the right people, even if they are external people, will actually put you into the right direction and will ensure that you have a success.
Yeah, I've heard just of people who buy like 7 things. I've been in so many co-working spaces where they built like 7 things, signed up for contracts they didn't understand, whether that's with furniture or technology, and then they want to, move solution and they can't because it's, set up in they're using like a Betamax video system when you should be using a MP3 player, and it's a shit. It doesn't happen so much nowadays, but in the early, 10 years ago, so many people opened co-working spaces, and some people did it really well. They would hack together. They'd run it from a spreadsheet. It was basically setting up some picnic tables in a room, and that's how they rolled. And I remember being at one co-working Europe conference, and we were having our good friend Hector was leading a session on co-working software technology, and there were so many people in the room going, "Oh, you can do that in Google Docs and Zapier." And then if I said her name, you'd know who it is. But she was like a facilities management veteran, and she went, "You people," she was really rude actually, and I loved her for it, but she was really rude. You were sitting here going, "You can do it on Google Docs," but I think, like, how on earth can you run a business without software? Like, what is wrong with you people? And everyone piled in. There was a big fight, and the software won. But
why won? Why also the software won? Because people start to value their own time and they understand the costs that they need to incur if they don't have a software. So there are many different areas where you can really save money on. First of all, you don't spend time on putting it in Google Sheet, right? Which is the manpower that costs. It's either the cost of your employee that you hire just to, update your Excel sheets, or it is your own time that maybe doesn't cost. Maybe you don't have a price on it, but you should price your time. And when you calculate how much time you spend and what would be your hourly rate, you will realize that most of the technology solutions are actually much cheaper than that per month. Yeah, and personally, I wouldn't question whether you need a technology solution or rather which technology solution you need, because that's the question you need to ask yourself, basically. Which software will be best for you or which integrations will work for you best, but not whether I should go this way at all.
And I think as well, whenever you're into these manual things, like, yes, you can run a space on spreadsheets and email, but the potential for error and missing things is huge because there's no reminders, there's no tracking, there's no reporting. The admin overhead, most people, when they go to work, like your community managers generally, if they're a good community manager, they want to be spending their time face to face, building relationships, making people operate. They don't want to be spending their life in front of a spreadsheet trying to type things in and not make errors and all of that. So there's a real overhead. And I think as well, your member experience isn't as great. These, the co-working software, whether it's Nexodus or whether it's, one of the others, they have member portals, they have apps, they have all sorts of great things that make your member experience better. And the whole thing of like being able to integrate your print solution so that your members can just, here's my, I can print, I can get my access control working. I'm on the Wi-Fi. All of these things just make such a massive difference to the success, I think, of your space for your team as well as for your members.
Absolutely. Let's go. I'm sure this will be the first of many conversations like this, folks. We should have you back for another, as we progress the empire building. So Fiona and Monica, where can we find you online?
Please connect with me on LinkedIn, actually. You can find me easily by typing Nexodus. It's Monica Solak.
We'll put a link in the show notes to your LinkedIn. Thanks very much. And Fiona, where are you?
I'm exactly the same. LinkedIn. I am helpfully Fiona-Ross-London.
Nice.
And that's where you'll find me, Pink Scotty.
And if you type Bernie into LinkedIn, that's where you get me. So thank you very much for your time today, ladies. And remember, folks, community is key. And if you go to coworkingassembly.eu and hang around for, I think it's 7.5 seconds at the moment, a little box will pop up and you can put your email address in there and we'll email you everything co-working in Europe. There's events, there's projects we're working on and how to connect with all the great people around. And the other thing I would really recommend, as we've been talking about tech, is our friend Hector runs a newsletter that is nearly as good as our one, called This Week in Co-working, where he goes around on a bicycle around the world and collects news from everybody and puts it in an email. So take care, be careful out there. It is a jungle, and thank you very much for your time today.